Is someone you love across the veil? In other words, has a loved one passed and you really want to connect with them? Is it possible? Absolutely. Take it from me. Retired Navy commander, never saw a spirit in my life. But when my stepdaughter Susan passed, I knew she had to still exist. And I've made such a clear connection with her and many others since I discovered how to connect across the veil. So the question today is it possible to try too hard to connect? And the answer I've learned from personal experience is yes. So today we're going to be discussing the top 5 mistakes loving people make when they're trying too hard to connect with those who have passed. How's that sound? All right. These are in no particular order. So we'll just go through them and see how it might help you connect easier. First one, overinterpreting every coincidence. If you read my book, Making the Afterlife Connection or Messages of Hope, you'll know that one of the very first signs my husband Ty and I got from our daughter Susan was unmistakable, no other explanation moments with butterflies. Now, if somebody had said that to me 20 years ago, I probably would have rolled my eyes and said, yeah, like those in spirit are going to send us butterflies. But as I detail in those stories, there was no doubt in our mind that Susan was somehow orchestrating these events, such as a butterfly following us for 2 days at sea on our sailboat and flying right between the two of us when we talked about it. And then a swarm of butterflies around our boat only. And then a butterfly on a trail just 1 week after her funeral when I was saying, Susan, make yourself known to me. And this butterfly flew from the forest right up to me, bounced into my heart, flew around me in a circle, down the trail 50 yards, straight towards Ty, flew around him in a circle, bounced into his heart, and flew away. A skeptic might try to dismiss that, but we knew in our heart that that was somehow Susan or somebody helping her trying to get our attention and saying, I'm here. You know this. Trust this. So since then, we notice butterflies, but we don't attribute every butterfly sighting to Susan. And that's the mistake that some people make. They get excited when they have messages from hummingbirds or doves or dragonflies. The lights blink. Those in spirit can definitely mess with our electronics. I've also told the story of the TV turning on in our hotel room all by itself 1 week after Susan passed, just before I read a passage in a book about how those across the veil can manipulate electric appliances. So there's no doubt in my mind through the preponderance of the stories that those across the veil have ways of getting signs to us. But then, as I said, the problem comes when we overinterpret every coincidence. So, how do you tell the difference? The answer is you tune into your heart when that synchronicity happens and you determine, is this my loved one sending me a sign or is this just chance? And you'll know, because if your loved ones truly send it, there's a feeling that comes with that. And your eternal connection with your loved one who has passed is what engenders that feeling. So every time we see butterflies now, we say, hey, Susan, but we do it just as a nod to Susan because the butterflies remind us of those wondrous actual signs from her. And there have been a few since then with butterflies, but others as well, such as when Ty felt 2 fingers pushing against his arm while he was hiking on a trail that he used to hike with Susan and thinking about her at just that moment. My retired destroyer captain husband, who's very by the book, sat down and cried when he felt that touch on his arm because he knew that was Susan. So it doesn't matter how left brain you are, how skeptical you are, there's a knowing that comes with this. So the other signs, if they cause you to think about your loved one, know that your loved one feels you thinking about them. So it served a purpose anyway. So there you go. That's the first of the top 5 mistakes people make when they're trying too hard to connect with their loved ones. And it doesn't mean you're not connecting with them if you don't sense them when they send a sign. But all of these together, these Clues that I'm sharing with you now will help you understand more clearly that our loved ones are always here and that trying is not necessary. They're right here. So, how about the next one? Comparing your experiences in connecting with your loved one with other people's experience. All right. It took me 3 years of daily sitting silently, asking Susan to reveal herself to me, for her to finally come clearly to me in meditation. I heard her voice. I tell this whole story in our documentary, Wolf's Message. And I put her to the test. I said, Susan, where have you been? I know this is you, but tell me 3 things going on in your biological mother's life right now that I couldn't possibly know. And she did. And later she told me she deliberately held back from coming to me, despite my trying hard for 3 years, because I had so much to learn in those 3 years. In fact, I was already doing professional readings as a medium within those 3 years and had still not connected to my own loved one, getting really beautiful evidence that was verified by my clients when I would connect with their loved ones. You can imagine the frustration. Why am I connecting with others and not Susan? And to have her come to me personally and say, because you would not have continued on this path and developed your ability to connect with higher consciousness so clearly if I had come right away. And she's right. So could it be that your loved one is holding back so that you learn certain lessons along your spiritual path, and not the kind of you need to learn this lesson, but other things that will make your journey in human form more enjoyable and more peaceful and help you to shine your soul's light? That's the gift of mediumship in my experience. It helps us all remember more clearly that the reason connecting with our loved ones who have passed is because we are all souls here and now, and we're part of this one web that is always present. So to compare your experience with others denies the unique journey that you are on now. I've had other people have a breakthrough after a year and a half. I've had friends have breakthroughs, meaning they connected clearly with their loved one in an undeniable sense after 2 weeks, or the first time they tried some of my methods. Do you need a method to connect? No. Connecting across the veil is a natural ability when we simply shift our awareness from human focus to I am a soul here and now. Let me feel you. But for some of us, that takes a while to undo the identification with I'm just a human in this physical body. And we also may have some dense energy in our own energy field to clear out before we can sense them. We'll get to that in a bit. But you can see, I hope, that comparing how soon somebody connect or how they connect with their loved one to how you may open up that connection is not going to be helpful to you. So, for example, now I hear Susan, I hear other people's voices and their thoughts. I see very clearly images that they put in my mind's eye, and yet I don't see their faces. For a long time, that was a frustration point to me because I was comparing myself with other mediums who see spirits, some of them objectively, literally in the room with them. That's a very rare experience for any medium, but many mediums can describe the spirits very clearly, and I can't. And I've realized that for me personally, that's a gift because it has required me to truly capture the essence of those spirits that I tune into. So maybe you won't hear your loved one clearly at first, maybe you won't see them, but it's the sense of knowing that they're right here that we're going for. And you will also be able to discern messages from them, even if they don't come in words. So watch the comparison, and I just suggest that you be very open to how they show up. They will love the freedom that that gives them to let you know they're here in whatever way they can. All right. So as we continue talking about the top 5 mistakes loving people make when they're trying too hard to connect, let's move on to the next one. Asking the same question repeatedly. We do this with our guides as well. You all have guides, or wouldn't get through this life as easily as we do. They're helping us even if you don't recognize it. We often think our thoughts are our own when oftentimes they're put there by loved ones across the veil and our guides, even though they sound like ours. So if you have a question of spirit, whoever it is in spirit, and you ask them one time from the heart with the intention of helping yourself or helping others, trust me, that question was received. There's no need to ask it again. If the answer doesn't come right away, just give it a couple days, wait a little bit of time because the answer may not come clearly as an immediate message, as a thought. You might not see an image, but perhaps somebody comes into your life a day or two later and they say something that's just what you needed to hear. Or you get a sign in some other unexpected way. Give it a little bit of time without repeatedly asking the same question. This is akin to going to a restaurant, giving your order to the server, and then every time they walk by saying, "Did you get my order? How's it doing? Is it ready yet?" We don't do that because we trust that once you've given your order to the kitchen, it's going to come out as you liked it, as you asked for it. Now, clearly, if you've asked for your dinner and 45 minutes it's later, it's still not there, you're going to ask that waiter again. So it's okay to ask a question twice if after, let's say, arbitrarily 2 days, you haven't received an answer. But repeatedly asking gets into trying mode, and that will cut off even your ability to sense the answer. All right, so that's three. Let's move on now to the fourth mistake loving people make when they're trying too hard to connect. Here we go. Looking outside instead of within. By outside, I don't mean outside the house or outside a room. I'm talking about anything in our objective experience, using only your physical senses to sense the presence of a loved one, when truly everything that you are experiencing is arising in awareness. In my book, The Awakened Way, I talk about how if you truly examine life, you see that it all breaks down to sensations, thoughts, and feelings arising where? Not outside of you, and not even in your body, but within awareness. There's one basic awareness that all of us share, and that is I exist. I am. Beyond that, everything else is the experience of sensations, thoughts, and feelings. So trying too hard to sense your loved one appearing in front of you, like I first did when Susan passed. Susan, why don't I see you? Why aren't you showing up on this trail? And then I get this incredible butterfly sign to validate that, hey, I'm here, but just not as you expect. She wasn't the butterfly, but using consciousness and the web of connections, somehow that butterfly delivered a message by following the guidance it got that was coming from something within it. So if we learn to simply notice what's arising in awareness, whether eyes open or eyes closed, it doesn't matter where it happens, but it's happening within awareness, we will start to notice what stands out. And that's the key. Relaxing, being open to any messages from your loved one, and simply being aware. Wait, why did that just get my attention? Or why did I just have that thought? Or why did I just get goosebumps? Or why did my lip just twitch? Or why do I have a tingling in my temples? This awareness is really the key to noticing when your loved ones are trying to get you messages. And you notice that awareness is not trying. Trying is counterproductive. Actually relaxing, being open and aware of what is present. So instead of looking out and trying to sense your loved ones, you go within awareness, which is an open, coherent state, and simply pay attention, whether that's looking, and you see how my eyes kind of relax and I'm gazing without focusing for what's happening within my mind's eye. And now I'm listening for something to come into awareness. I can check in with my guides at any time and just say, hey, what's the next best step for me right now? And I listen but not for an external answer, an awareness to arise. So if you get in the habit of that and remaining relaxed, you'll see there's a big difference between trying and going outside of yourself and relaxing and noticing what is already right here. Your loved ones are going to really appreciate this. So, how about the fifth mistake loving people make when they're trying too hard to connect with loved ones who have passed? Here we go. Expecting grief to disappear if the connection is real. So you will know when you make that real connection. Like I said in the documentary Wolf's Message and in the book, the first time that I connected with Susan, oh my gosh, I cried. We were so excited. That was the first time I personally connected with her. The very first time we knew she was here was when Ty and I went to a medium, long before I knew I was destined to be a medium. And both of us sobbed because the evidence that came through from that medium left no doubt in our minds that Susan was right here, still existed. And what your loved ones in spirit want you to know is that they are not dead and gone. You have not lost them, which is a term we often use. What you find out when you make a real connection is you move forward together. They're still part of your life. What I love most in the sessions that I do for people when I show them that their loved ones are here is when those across the veil tell me current events going on with their loved one here. You know, like my mom just ate popcorn last night. Yes, I did. How do they know that? Because they see you. Or they tell you what happened at the graduation that you think they missed, or what happened at the wedding that you think they missed, or the birthday celebration, whatever milestone we may cry about because we think our loved one missed it. They want to assure you, I'm right here. I wouldn't miss it for the world. But does that take our grief away? In a way. But that feeling of lack, the sadness that comes from the thoughts, I'm not going to be able to touch them again in this lifetime, that grief will always potentially be there. It will lessen with time. The rawness of it does diminish, but grief comes in waves. But happily, a clear connection changes that somehow. It gives you the awareness that, hey, my loved one is here to grieve their complete loss, is showing them that I don't understand that. So know that they're watching you when you're sad. Know that they understand it and that they're wrapping their spirit arms around you. Know that you absolutely will see them again. Talk to them to assuage your grief, but to expect a clear connection with them to take the grief away is not the way it works. So honor your grief, feel your grief, and yes, continue connecting with them now through relaxing, understanding they're right here, and learning how to shift your focus from only human and restricted and constricted to open, spacious, listening, aware, and trusting that with the right timing, they're going to show up. I hope that all of these tips are helpful. I'm sure that there are more ways we restrict ourselves, but 5 is enough to focus on for now. If you take nothing more from this, may it be the assurance that in time, given your heartfelt commitment without effort, but with trust, you will come to know what, again, I guarantee you, love and life are eternal. They're right here. Even if you don't sense them now, please keep talking to them. They surely appreciate that. Lots of love.